Hey guys, thought I'd throw this one together for answering a couple questions on how I'm hand filing chisel bit chain and why why bother with square ground chain versus round file. I kind of think there's three things that I think are key to compare round file versus square file. One is the smoothness of the cut, obviously the speed of the cut, and the duration of that cutting speed. What I mean by the smoothness of the cut, really common when guys try a square ground chain for the first time, if it's sharpened right, the comment is that it cuts so smooth. And it's not, it's not the end of the log smooth. What they're referring to is the lack of vibration through the handlebars. Because there is no hook on the side plates and the tooth is cutting the fiber so much more easily, the the um, the lack of vibration through the handlebars compared to the round file is really noticeable, and that's what they mean by it cuts so smooth. The cutting speed, and I'm going to post a couple of pictures. I'm going to try to put a couple of pictures with this so you can compare the round file to the square file. But the square file chain, you're taking that side plate back to a 45-degree cutting angle and compare that to about a 25 or 30-degree angle with a round file. It's simply cutting that fiber off more easily. It's going to take less power out of the saw. So if you can cut that fiber off more easily, then you can lower the depth gauges a couple more thousandths, cut a little bit thicker chip per tooth, without adding to what we call the reactive force from the saw, that pulling effect or pushing, and especially the kickback. So you're getting a faster cutting chain. It cuts more smoothly, and the duration of that cutting speed I think is really interesting. And where that comes from is the strength of that working corner or the point. Right, full chisel chain, you got a straight side plate, a straight top plate, and you create that corner. With round file chain, you have to have, because of the shape of the file, you have a little bit of a curvature or a hook, which gives you what I always call a prick your finger kind of point. With square file chain, you end up with that strong, that working corner also. It's sharp, but it's much stronger. And here, I'm going to put up also a picture of what I mean, but so you can get a close-up. But when you take a piece of wood and break it apart, and I mean really, really break it apart down into its finest little pieces there, you'll see that a piece of wood is really just a tightly bundled, a bundle of fiber, really, really hair-like fiber. If you appreciate that, then we can start to understand why the square file chain stays sharp so much longer. Round file chain, you end up with a very sharp point, but it's not as strong as the point, or the corner I should say, on square ground chain. What happens with round file chain, it's not the cutting edges that lose their ability to cut, it's the fact that the point is starting to peen down ever so slightly. And it really starts to act like the front end of a sled runner or the front of a ski that will slide over that fiber instead of hook into it. And that gives us the feeling from the saw that we need to start pushing on the saw, and that feeling from the handlebar kind of says that the chain is becoming dull. It's losing its I want to cut wood feel. So we stop and file it up. It's fair enough, it's round filed. Square file chain, that corner is so much stronger that it's just more durable. So it's going to hold that cutting speed longer. So it's a smooth cut, it's fast cutting chain, and it maintains that cutting speed. It's really, you put that all together, is why, you know, I find with my system, with a cut to length, my chain doesn't cut any dirty wood. That's not the place for square ground chain. Clean wood, and if you're really looking for performance out of a saw, I mean, you can't beat it. So filing it, very quick. I've got another video to show you that I made, but very quick review. Okay, I set the saw up at this angle. I tighten the chain up tighter than I run it at so that the tooth doesn't move. Bring the tooth right up here in the corner, and what works for me is that I can see inside this tooth. I'm looking at that line, or that V sort of thing that comes together from the inside corner to the outside corner. And another thing that I find, and I don't know if you could set up a jig in your shop if you're going to do this indoors, probably could, but I find this to where my arm is secure on a tree. I find it easier to make that file go in a nice straight line, and each time I go across, I look. And I can see if I need to make ever so slight adjustment on keeping that corner, keeping that line going from inside corner to outside corner. Don't forget, if you're trying to, if this is kind of new to you, the importance of that side plate leaning forward. The side plate, right, straight up and down. If you're looking at it from this point of view here, don't, just caution to not start leaning the file into the tooth to sharpen the edge. That side plate starts leaning backwards, and you're not going to have the optimum performance out of that saw. I think that's probably the trickiest thing with hand filing to do, is to keep that side plate lean forward, and I say 5 degrees. Actually, what I would recommend is put like a carpenter square right on your bar, just like that, so your eye has something to compare to, and you want to see that side plate lean forward that 5 degrees. So, hope that helps. Happy to answer questions. Take care, guys.